Hey guys, as a contractor and woodworker, you never own enough clamps. Am I right? So new to the workshop clamping scene is Rockler's spring-loaded clamp. The clamp features just a spring mechanism that's inside this bar here that closes the jaws with just a squeeze of the trigger. It's just that easy. And it leaves your other hand free to position parts or to move around or position stuff. And I found it pretty helpful. Look, the way they operate, it's simple. Simple squeeze of the trigger quickly for instant closing, or you can pull the trigger kind of slower for a slower closing action or feathering. I've partnered with Rockler to give you guys an independent review on these clamps, and I've been using them for about 3 or 4 weeks here in the workshop, and also a little bit in the job site on a remodeling project. These Rockler clamps are made of glass reinforced nylon clamp body with a steel bar that basically encompasses the spring mechanism, spring cover. They feature black colored non-marring clamping pads, and the clamps come in 2 sizes with a clamping capacity either of 6.5 or 10.5. Both of those clamps have a clamp throat depth of 2¼ inches. The clamp pads are 7/8 by 1.5 inches, and both clamps feature 150 pounds of clamping force. I was impressed with how fast the clamp closes. A simple squeeze of the trigger, and you release the trigger and the spring mechanism just closes those jaws really fast, which I think is good because it eliminates repetitive pumping of a clamp grip, a pistol grip, or to use your other hand to have to close that clamp. Now, once closed, a squeeze of the trigger, the main clamp gives you about 150 pounds, up to 150 pounds of clamping force. Now, to give you some perspective of how fast these clamps close, it takes me 26 pumps to close a pistol grip on a different brand, and less than a second to close the spring mechanism on this clamp. Now, that's extremely efficient, and is by far the coolest feature of these clamps. Now, when initially closing these clamps, I noticed that the clamp kind of slams closed quickly with some force. And I was thinking, is this slamming going to become, with the clamp pad slapping the material, detrimental in my clamping operations, small parts, miters, and stuff like that? Now, Rockler says that you can precisely feather the clamp closed, something that we'll discuss a little bit later in the review because I want to go deeper into this, but that's what they say. Opening the clamp is easy too. It's just, you just simple engage the release and slide it open. But you still need to use your other hand and finger to pull it open, making it a 2-handed operation. Let's discuss using the clamps, because that's really what you want to know, what I think about when I was using them. The spring mechanism, it allowed me to close the clamp easily, fast, and efficiently while freeing up a hand, basically. That hand to position parts, hold a level and clamp it, onto a post or something. I found that releasing the clamps or loading the clamps open allowed me to install multiple clamps one-handed, especially when I needed that hand. I could just reach for the clamp, close it, reach for the clamp, and close it. When you're doing gluing and assembly, that's crucial. So preload your clamps. These clamps are faster and easier to close than pistol grips, pump-style clamps. No contest there. Rockler advertises the 2 clamp sizes at 6.5 and 10.5 clamping capacity. We measured 6 3/4 and 10 7/8, and that's I'm sure that Rockler is just giving you a little extra to get onto a piece of material. Makes sense. One observation though we had was that they take a little bit short time to wear in and work smoothly. So early on when we started using them, I noticed some of our clamps were stiff to open and also a little stiff to close. The good news is that after we started using them, they did loosen up over time, and they wore in, they broke in. Now, we found that they worked well after this initial break-in, and I've had no issues with them since. All right, let's discuss that feathering that we talked about. That's the precision closing of the clamp. The clamp closes fast and has force when it closes, and you can see that. The force is enough to misalign small parts that you are holding with one hand. That could be a problem. As a result, you need to feather the clamp closed, which is just like a slow closing. We tried feathering a few times on a few different clamps, probably 50 times. And there is a learning curve. It takes some practice to get it right. So don't think you pick up this clamp and you can get it right away. You might, but I didn't. I needed to practice. The process is not really what I would call feathering. I would describe it as a choppy, controlled close. After practicing with the clamp, I am able to show, to slow the closure of that, that feathering process, but it's still not what I would call or describe as a smooth feathering closure. When clamping, like a small part in place for gluing, I noticed that the fast closing of that clamp will slam the part, so you just have to be careful of that. So learn how to feather that close and get better than I am at it, because it's not as easy as you think. All right, as far as room for improvement, the limiting size of these clamps is a bummer. After using both size clamps in the workshop and in the field, I would describe the 2 1/4 inch throat depth and the 6.5 and 10.5 clamping capacity is somewhat limiting. I need something a little deeper. I definitely want something longer, certainly here in the shop. Rockler told us that they are exploring different options as far as size of the clamp is concerned. With the current clamp, they really just wanted to place a lot of attention and effort and testing into dialing in the correct tension on these 2 sizes that they're offering now. So they wanted to just focus on these 2 sizes, and then they'll start thinking about growing the line. Rockler did tell us that with increasing size clamps, the jaws will also get deeper. So that's good. Additionally, I'd like to see Rockler improve on the soft closing, the feathering of these clamps. After all, that's the main feature of these. Make that thing close like a storm door on pistons, hydraulic. If they can do that, there's no beating these clamps across the board. They're going to be phenomenal. So the 6-inch clamp, let's talk about cost. The 6-inch clamp, one-handed bar clamp, is going to cost $19. And the 10-inch clamp is $22.99. So $19 and $23. Considering that I can get a 4-pack pistol grip clamp kit for a similar price, the Rockler clamps are a bit on the pricier side. You can argue you get what you pay for here. So overall, while not perfect, we liked the spring mechanism closing feature on these clamps. Eliminating the repetitive pumping of the grip trigger and not needing to use your other hand to close the jaws. Look, it's certainly faster and it's much more efficient way to assemble. And I like efficiency. If you know me personally, you know that. I really appreciated the one-handed closing action that left my one hand completely free to position parts and hold things in place. So I can see lots of uses for this. They're versatile, and I can see many users using these, including people maybe with hand injuries or arthritis, right? This would just be way better than pumping something 26 times. These clamps will no doubt find a home in woodworking, carpenters, and DIY projects. Guys, I'm Rob Robillard. We'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this review. Take care. Please consider supporting this channel. Like the video, leave a comment, but more importantly, subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you.